Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today on the Gradcracker webinar with Zurich. I would first like to introduce you to the Gradcracker members of the panel. So my name's Carla, a director at Gradcracker. I have been with the business for 14 years and I have looked after Zurich for the last 7. So,
Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm also a director of Gradcracker. I've been here for 12 years, so not quite as long as Carla. And I'm going to be helping Carla on the webinar today.
you're nearly there, Sophie.
Nearly there.
Chomping at my feet. So during the webinar, our aim is to find out a little bit more about Zurich. So we will talk about who they are, what they do, and also what opportunities are open to you, our STEM students, and you can apply to those opportunities on Gradcracker today as they are live on the Zurich Hub. We will then speak to the students about what life is like for them, what projects they've worked on, if they're involved in the networking groups, what training and development they have received, and also their future plans. We will then end the webinar with Laura and discussing the recruitment process and giving you an idea of how you can be successful. So as I mentioned to you on Monday, a new feature for this year is that you can submit your questions before the webinar for the panel. Some questions will then be selected and raised as part of the webinar, and you can send us your question on the webinar page on Gradcracker, and we'll really look forward to receiving them. So let's meet Zurich. Laura is very excited to be on this webinar today. I think she's been waiting for about a year, Laura, to do this webinar.
Yeah, I have.
So Laura is the Early Careers Talent Advisor and will be giving you an insight into Zurich, the roles which are currently advertised on Gradcracker, and also the recruitment process. So we're also joined by graduates Zyra, Chrysanthi and Luke, who will be speaking to very shortly. So Laura, now's the time. Talk to us about Zurich.
Thanks, Carla. As Carla said, I'm really excited to be here this afternoon. So thank you for everybody joining today. So I'm Laura, I'm the Early Careers Talent Advisor at Zurich, as Carla mentioned. So I'm here today with some of the grads to talk to you all about Zurich. So who are we? We are a very large global insurance company. So we have around 55,000 employees worldwide, with around 4,000 of us sitting here in the UK. So you may not know a huge amount about insurance, which is absolutely fine, but we provide insurance products and services to over 200 countries, serving individuals and customers and individual customers and corporate customers with a variety of insurance products and services, including motor insurance, property insurance, life insurance, pensions, travel insurance. Some of those you may be a bit more familiar with than others, but like I said, insurance is, something you may not know too much about just yet. So our customers are at the heart of everything that we do. We're really there for our people when they need us most, paying out claims when they really need them in these financial situations, ensuring our customers are supported and guided along the way. We really pride ourselves on being there for our customers and our employees, creating a brighter future and a more sustainable future. But please don't be fooled. Insurance is far from boring. So behind a large corporate insurance company, there are many cogs that keep the wheels turning. So whilst we have underwriters and claims teams, we have lots of things you may not associate with an insurance company. So we have a HR department, legal department, marketing, all sorts of things, which we will touch on later on in the webinar too.
Yeah, there's lots of different types of opportunities that you can apply for at Zurich, and as I've mentioned before, they're all currently on the hub on Gradcracker. So just to give you a bit of an idea, so there's 14 placements, a mixture of summer and year-long placements, and also graduate opportunities as well. And so as kind of Laura just touched on slightly there about the insurance sector. So before this webinar, when we all got together just to have a chat and a bit of a meet and greet, Laura mentioned about the misconceptions about Zurich in general and the insurance sector. So Laura, what common misconceptions do you kind of come across when you're speaking to students and grads?
I think for me, the biggest misconception is that insurance is boring and not a very exciting place to work. For me, it's far from boring. I've been at Zurich for 14 years myself. I had my 14-year anniversary last week, so it can't be that boring if I've been there that long. So it's a really exciting and varied industry to work in, and there's just so much more to insurance than meets the eye. It's not just kind of underwriting policies and paying out claims. There's lots of sort of different opportunities depending on kind of what kind of sparks your interest. And I think the other one for me is that insurance is a male dominated industry. It absolutely isn't. So Zurich and many other insurance companies are very diverse in terms of a gender balance. When I step into any of our offices, I never feel that it's male dominated. I think historically it's been seen that way, and I can completely understand why people still think that. But I'm really proud that we can absolutely bust that myth, and I love seeing sort of males and females alike sort of applying for our different roles. So yeah, don't believe these myths. Come kind of see for yourself, I would say.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Laura. And let's go into more detail about the roles that you've currently advertised on Gradcracker. So just a bit of an overview of what those roles are and also where the roles will be based.
So as you mentioned, lots of variety this year with grads, interns, and so that's summer interns and industrial 1-year placements as well. So we've got lots of variety this year. So finance, actuarial, data, business management, change in technology, and then risk engineering and sustainable energy. So the majority of roles are hybrid. So we are a hybrid and flexible working company. However, I do always say you really should be in a commutable distance from the location that is in that advert. So when you're on the hub, checking out the opportunities, just make sure you're really careful. We are operating all up and down the UK. So lots of our roles are London, Swindon, down in the south coast in Fareham, up in Glasgow, Birmingham. So we've got lots of different locations this year as well. But it's really important for us that grads and interns, particularly in the early days, they spend lots of time in the office. So just make sure you're really careful when you're sort of applying, that you check that location, because certainly in the early days you'll be spending lots of time in the office. That will relax over time. We are sort of, it's very flexible, very hybrid, but just be careful of that location there.
Yes, perfect. So hopefully what Laura's got across there is lots of opportunities, lots of different types of opportunities, and in lots of different locations as well. So you can be based nearly anywhere in the country.
Yes.
So thanks for that introduction, Laura. So we'll come back to Laura and the grads a little bit later on in the webinar, just to talk about the application process, hints and tips, and how you, our STEM students, can be successful. So stay tuned. Now we're going to speak to the lovely grads and find out all about what they've been up to so far. They watched the webinar last year. So yeah, Dabhan, Soph, over to you.
Thank you very much, Carla. Yeah, I'm really excited to find out a little bit more about all of our graduates today. So Zaira, I'm going to start with you. Could you just tell us all a little bit more about yourself and your background, please?
Yes, absolutely, Sophie. So my name is Zaira and I'm on the business graduate scheme here at Zurich. I've been here for actually 1 year today now, so time does fly. Thank you. So yeah, as I said, I am on the business grad scheme. It is a rotational scheme and I'm currently on my second rotation at claims. So here I'm a claims handler and I specifically handle specialty claims. So it's very, very interesting what I'm doing and very different to what I was doing in my last rotation, which was in project management. So a bit of background, I studied at the University of Birmingham and I studied biological sciences. So very, very different to the role I ended up in business management. And I decided to go University of Birmingham purely because I really loved the campus. They had really good science labs and facilities. They had really good funding in that type of sector. And also I really liked the city. It was very vibrant. It was very social. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Fantastic. And now you are based in London, aren't you?
Yeah, so based in London.
Fantastic. And why biological sciences to business? What's the kind of segue there?
Yes. So I think it was a bit of a random one for me. So I obviously had an idea of wanting to go into the science route when starting my degree. You know, I really love science at school, namely biology. So I did my biology degree, but in my third year, I kind of felt like the science route wasn't for me. So I was a bit like panicked, you know, my last year, change of career plans, what am I supposed to do? I went through various different like vacancies, and Gradcracker actually really helped me look at a lot of these vacancies, and Zurich really did snag my eye, really did catch my eye. with their business program, namely because the degrees that they would accept was very open. You didn't have to have like a business degree or economics degree. So I felt like I ticked a lot of the boxes of the job requirements, and I just went for it. And luckily, I ended up getting a place here, and I really love it. No regrets.
No, that's brilliant. I think that's a really good point as well. That, you know, those transferable skills that you get in that kind of biological sciences degree, you know, can be applied in so many different areas. And, you know, now you're in Zurich, in insurance, working in business. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really great point. Zaira, I'm going to come back to you in a little while just to find out a little bit more about the work you've been doing so far, but we'll move on and say hi to Chrysanthi next. So could you tell us all a little bit more about yourself and your background as well, please?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm Chrysanthi. I'm doing the Data and Analytics graduate program at Zurich. I've been at Zurich as well for 1 year, and I'm currently in my second rotation, the data visualization team. And yeah, I'm coming from Cyprus.
Okay. And so you born and raised in Cyprus and then decided to come over to study in the UK. So can you tell us why you kind of chose to study here?
Yeah, so basically, I attended a private English school in Cyprus where I felt like the English curriculum, completing my GCSEs and A levels, and like this naturally led me to consider studying in the UK, as it felt like a smooth, like academic transition. And then the UK is like home to some of the world's top universities, renowned for the research and the academic standards, which can open like doors for future career opportunities within the UK and internationally. So yeah, I was just excited by also the prospect of living in like a diverse country, which would allow me to like explore the different cultures and broaden like my personal and professional horizons.
Amazing. And what did you study at university and where did you go?
Yeah, so I studied mathematics at University College of London for my undergraduate degree, and then I completed a master's degree in epidemiology at Imperial College London.
And epidemiology?
Yes.
Okay. And explain that what that is to our audience, because I'm sorry, that's gone over my head.
So yeah, I would say that, yeah, first of all, I chose Imperial for this master's because it's like of its global reputation in science and healthcare. And then I felt that the mathematics degree gave me like a strong foundation in analytical thinking and problem solving. And then that with the epidemiology, I was able to apply these mathematical concepts to like real world issues in public health. So like modeling the diseases was like very popular with COVID as well. And yeah, and there was a lot of like data analysis and statistical thinking there as well, which kind of led me to my role now.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because obviously that's slightly different. Obviously, some elements of that have brought into it. But is that why you then decided to go into kind of data analytics as a career?
Yeah. I think the module of like data analysis and statistical thinking, which was quite popular, kind of naturally, made me want to follow a career in like data analytics.
Fantastic. And at the moment, you're actually studying for a master's degree as well, aren't you?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently studying for a level 7 MSc in applied data analytics through like an apprenticeship program with BPP. So Zurich funds the program and provides support, including like study leave. I have like a study day once a week, and my line manager and teams are like very flexible with that. So they allow me to dedicate time during busy periods, such as when assignments are due, or like ensuring my academic commitments are like a priority alongside work. And I feel that really that helped me make it much easier to balance work and study. And then definitely the master's program like helped me gain confidence in coding, especially through like modules in programming and machine learning. Yeah.
Fantastic. And when did you start the master's program with Zurich then?
It started in October last year, and it's a part-time master's. It's 2 years.
Fantastic. No, that's brilliant to know that you've got that kind of additional support and the opportunity to go on to gain additional qualifications as well. So that's brilliant, Chrysanthi. I'll come back to you again to find out a little bit more about, your day-to-day life and the role. But Luke, we're going to come and say hi to you now. So can you tell us all about yourself, please?
Hi, my name's Luke, and thank you for the opportunity on being on this call. I was born and still live in Wales. And yeah, I
Luke
went
loves
to
Wales,
Bath.
everybody who's watching.
Yeah, so I went to Bath University, and I done accounting and finance. I'm an accounting and finance graduate from Bath University, and I quite linearly am on a finance graduate scheme within Zurich. I joined Zurich on an industrial placement from June 2021. That was about the height of COVID, right? And was there until for 40-month placement, oddly. Stayed on for an extra 2 months because I enjoyed it that much. So there until August 2022. So as part of the graduate scheme, I've been at Zurich now for a year. And through my finance graduate scheme, I am studying to become a qualified chartered accountant.
Oh, fantastic. So again, another sort of additional qualification to your name there.
Yes.
And Luke, just on the industrial placement, how did that process work? So obviously you loved it. You knew that you wanted to work at Zurich after you stayed on for that additional time as well. So did you go back into university knowing that you were going to be on the Zurich graduate scheme the following year when you kind of entered that final year?
Yes, it was a great relief once I got the offer at the end of my placement to go back onto the graduate scheme. And if it absolutely reduced the pressure on the final year, you know, having to find a graduate job alongside going through your final year of studies. So I was really thankful for having that offer to be able to come back to Zurich after I completed the final year of my degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody watching today that's in their first, second year thinking about whether a placement's a good idea or whether they want to go and do it, everything that Luke said is just really good advice. It does take that pressure off in your final year if you can have that kind of offer the minute you walk through the door. So yeah, that's really good to kind of hear. And like we've talked about already with Laura and Carla, there's opportunities open right now on the Zurich Gradcracker Hub for those industrial placement and summer placement opportunities as well. So thank you.
Can I just speak to Laura about just training and development? Because I'm just thinking, you know, both Luke and Chrysanthi, you mentioned about, you know, extra skills that you can gain as part of your graduate schemes. So Laura, as a business, is that something that you encourage graduates to do and get the extra skills and things like that?
Definitely, and not just our graduates, actually all of our employees are very much sort of encouraged to develop and progress, you know, as much as they wish to. So there's, you know, never any sort of force to do so. But certainly, obviously, with our grads, the majority of the graduate programs will come with some kind of qualification associated with it. That may be an apprenticeship or similar. But once you sort of roll off the grad program, they are all permanent placements, I should add. So once you've finished your actual grad program, there's opportunities to sort of, you know, whether you have an interest in a different team or a different business area, or if you think, oh, I'd quite like to do an apprenticeship, whether that be level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. There's lots of different kind of development opportunities where we're sort of very kind of hot on really growing our talent internally.
Yeah. And how does that work then? Do you have a mentor that you have to go to, or would it be your immediate line manager to say, look, I'm interested in doing this qualification. How do I go about this?
It's generally a combination. So the grads will have kind of like development managers, and there's lots of support in place for the grads, but equally they'll have sort of their line manager. So there's lots of support around generally for sort of grads and interns when they're with us as well during the summer. So it is worth adding on the back of what Luke said, whilst I remember that our industrial placements and summer internships tend to be sort of a pipeline into the grad program the following year. So we do have a high percentage of conversions that join us for 10 weeks in the summer, or like Luke did for the full year, or 14 months in Luke's case. And then, you know, if they are successful, they're offered the grad program for the following year. You know, the contracts are issued as well. So you are essentially securing your place for the following year. So it's a really good way to kind of see if we're for you, essentially. So I'm a big fan of the internships and the placements.
And last question, because I've just got Jess, who's our co-director in my ears thinking, I haven't asked this question, Carla, but so Jess will want to ask if she was on this webinar, if a student does a placement with you, a summer placement, can they just keep coming back as summer placements? Do you offer repeated placements?
They can't, no. So it is just purely for that summer internship for that year. So the internships and the placements are designed for those in their penultimate year of study, with a view of them obviously rolling onto the grad program the following year. So generally it is just that one-time placement.
Perfect. Lovely. Thanks, Laura. Sorry to...
No worries.
No,
Thanks.
that's brilliant. Those are all questions. I was actually going to do a very similar thing to you. So
Great.
fine. Great. So after we've got to know you all a little bit more now, know a little bit about your backgrounds, I want to find out a little bit more about what you've been doing so far within Zurich. So Zaira, I'm going to come back to you. You mentioned about the 2 different rotations you've done so far. But if you could expand on, what they looked like and what your current role's like, that would be brilliant.
Yeah. So I'll start off with my first rotation. So we take it in order. So I was in projects management, essentially. Won't bore you with all the details, but I will talk about an exciting project I was able to work on. So I actually was able to create a diversity and inclusion catalogue for the function I was working in Zurich, which is called ZM. And essentially it was a resource for all ZM colleagues to get all the D&I training and opportunities available. So I did a lot of external and internal research about this, collaborated with a lot of our employee resource groups. So our cultural awareness network within Zurich, we have a woman in insurance network in Zurich, we have Ali inclusion networks, Pride, all of them, and created like an events catalog where you could see all the events that are happening throughout the year. I was able to kind of transfer that to someone else when I did leave, so we can keep on updating that. And I was actually able to kind of advertise this catalog to senior stakeholders, including the CEO of Zurich UK, actually this Monday just gone. So yeah, so I was pretty proud of that work I was able to do. And thank you. And then I guess for my second rotation now, it's less projects management, more technical insurance skills I am gaining right now. And it's very interesting because I'm able to see UK and also US, because like Laura said, we are a global company, we do deal with matters all around the world. So I'm namely looking at US and UK matters, looking at the claims that are coming in. And the claims I'm dealing with is specialty claims. So we're looking at mainly professional indemnity. So that's looking at when our clients, our insureds, get sued for bad advice from like lawyers, doctors, so it is very interesting to see the kind of various claims that come through of people suing what for malpractice and advice. I'm a very nosy person, so I don't mind leaving through.
Me too.
Yeah, and it is very technical because you've got a lot of people demanding money from us, but you've got to sit at a very objective eye and see, even though it does seem like we want to give you the money, you've got to use a lot of investigation skills and see, hold on, this actually isn't covered in the policy. So I would say I've actually exercised a lot of my skill set, from project management, creativity, all the way to sorry, I can't speak English all the way to analyzing and getting that fine detail in. So yeah, I think namely those are the biggest things I've been working on so far.
That's brilliant. I mean, they're 2 very different projects, but like you said, it's so good to be able to kind of pick out some of the skills that you've gained from the first placement into your current rotation. And I bet some of those skills that you got through your university degree as well are coming in handy as well, in terms of analysing data and analysing, technical documents and things like that. So it's good to kind of be able to relate that back to, okay, I did this at university, but I'm now using that today. And then also what you said about what you did on Monday, presenting to the CEO. I mean, what an amazing opportunity, and how daunting that must have been.
Yeah, it's very daunting.
But no, that's brilliant. And again, an opportunity like that is brilliant, that in such a large organization you still have access to, the senior people to present to present work that, you know, you've been in the company a year. So that's brilliant.
Yes, like one thing I must say that's so amazing about Zurich is everybody's accessible. No matter what level you are, no matter how senior you are, especially as grads and interns and apprentices, they do make the time and effort to get to know who you are. So I really really did love the opportunity I got on Monday to speak to all the senior stakeholders within Zurich.
Fantastic.
With you working on projects which are, you know, UK and US based, like you just mentioned, Zaira, is the opportunity for international travel?
I think as of right now, international travel is not as big as it was before, just due to us, a lot of like, due to climate and environment, you know, we're trying to reduce that carbon footprint we do have. So most is encouraged within like the region you are in, but not to say there would not be any opportunities to get that international travel, because I do know of some grad peers that have actually been to like New York and Amsterdam, as in like within their grad program.
I thought I'd heard that before from Zurich when me and Nora have done other webinars in the past. So yes, thanks, Zaira. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And just to touch upon kind of next steps then, Zaira, where do you have any idea what your next rotation will be, or how does that process work?
Yeah, so I think Zurich for the business program, I'll speak purely for the business program because I'm in that. It's very flexible. So as long as it reflects the business needs and it is doable, you can pick from anything really. Their only asks for the business program is you need to have a compulsory rotation in claims and underwriting, because that is the fundamentals of insurance, you know, underwriting the business and also the claim sides of things. But other than that, the world's your oyster really, and you get to pick whatever you are interested in. So I think for the next steps for me, I might need to get the underwriting done, because I am quite interested into seeing the beginning part of insurance, how we write our business. And then lastly, for my last rotation, maybe look at the customer people side of things and maybe get into some relationship management.
Great. So by the end of it, you'll have a whole host of experience.
Yes, the whole platter.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Zaira. I'm going to move back to Chrysanthi now just to find out a little bit more about your experiences so far. So could you tell us what life is like on the data and analytics scheme?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, for the data analytics, the program offers like 3 rotations across the different teams. So it's data science, data visualization and insights, and data engineering. My first rotation was in the data science team, and that lasted for 9 months. So there I focused on like developing machine learning models to solve business problems.
Wow.
And then in the data visualization and insights team, I'm working on creating self-service dashboards and translating that data into meaningful insights for like stakeholders. And then as far as I know, the data engineering rotation will like involve building and managing data pipelines to ensure smooth data processing and integration. But then, as well, had like some exciting projects. So when I first joined Zurich, the initial project I got involved in was the UK operations induction project. So it provided me with the opportunity to practice a wide range of skills like organization, communication, teamwork, and like report writing. So I worked with 2 other graduates to interview over 40 people across the UK operations executive and like key UK business contacts in Zurich. And then we gave a presentation to, I think, 400 people across the operations.
Wow.
So another big event like the first few months. This gave us like a valuable insight into the different areas of the business and how the operations department, so where the data and analytics fits into the broader picture at Zurich. And it was like a great way as well to establish a network and build like strong relationships across the company. And then while in the data science team, I had the opportunity to work on a project for the life business area. So their challenge was the lack of time to like manually review all the claims. And the aim was to build a machine learning model and then use OpenAI large language models to increase like straight through processing and reduce manual assessment. So it was a very exciting to be part of something also very innovative.
Fantastic. So, I mean, you're using really, really brand new technologies there so that's really interesting. So how did you kind of go about learning that? Because obviously you did a sort of data related degree, and obviously you're on the masters now, but is there a lot of day-to-day learning that you have to do to be able to implement these types of new technologies?
Definitely, there's always, so I was doing some training with Python because that's the main programming language used. And then I think that the masters really helps, and like I'm applying a lot of the knowledge gained from like the masters in like my projects, but also the opposite, things that I'm learning at work, I can apply it in masters. So yeah.
Okay, so it helps both ways.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you mentioned that you're doing there's three rotations on the data analytics scheme. Is that fixed? That everybody does the same 3 rotations? Yeah.
The first one is for 9 months, and then the other 2 rotations are 6 months. And then there is like a 3-month rotation into like the business. So get to know as well more about the business unit in Zurich.
No, I think it's interesting what you've said about the projects that you've done so far and the presentations and things, because I think if you think data analytics, you might think, okay, I'm just going to be sat with my head in a computer looking at loads and loads of data all day every day, but you've had that experience to work with other grads and do something slightly outside your comfort zone as well. Presenting to 400 people is outside most people's comfort zone, to be fair. And so that's given you that exposure, then go on to do the business rotation at the end. And within the 3 set rotations that you've got, do you have any kind of leeway on what you work on in those rotations? So can you say, actually, in the data visualization team, I want to work on this particular project or anything like that?
So it's basically, there is usually like a business problem like from other areas, and we're trying to like bring value. So it depends like what the problem is, and then we try and sit down and try to understand the business needs, and then use data to like bring value and solutions.
So it'll change year on year for everyone that's coming in. So the grads joining on the scheme next year won't necessarily be doing exactly the same things as you guys.
I was just going to ask about a question, something similar about you mentioned, Chrysanthi, about Python. And what we always like to do is give the students who've been successful kind of a head start. So would you recommend a student going into your graduate program, if they're not aware of Python, to kind of get used to the familiarities of Python and the basic steps to learning it? Or would you say, don't worry, it'll be taught to you when you first start at Zurich?
So I came without any knowledge in Python. I knew a little bit of R from my master's, but I would say they really support you and help you train. I mean, it would be good if you know, but I think the most important is having that passion and interest for the data and wanting to learn. So
Thank you. And Laura, just on that, that just led me on to something else. For the data analytics graduate scheme, do you have to have some previous experience in data and analytics, or can you come from any sort of background?
Yeah, absolutely. The majority of our programs, and data is one of them, where it doesn't necessarily matter what you study as such. There are certain criteria that need to be met in terms of kind of UCAS points, A levels and things like that. But it doesn't necessarily always matter what you studied. And that sort of brings me back to one of my earlier points, in that, insurance is really varied. There is likely to be something for you. It doesn't matter what you studied, or what you think you're going to get into versus what you may end up getting into. So it's certainly worth checking out that criteria. Some of the programs do require qualifications to be in a certain sort of subject or certain field, if they're a little bit more specialist, but that is definitely not always the case.
Brilliant. Thank you, Laura. And thank you very much, Chrysanthi. I'm going to move over to Luke now to find out a little bit more about your role so far. So you're on the finance scheme. Tell us about what you've been doing so far.
Absolutely. I think finance is so broad and varied, especially for a multinational company like Zurich. Specifically regards to our finance graduate scheme, we have 3 12-month rotations. So you can get a broad enough experience of different teams within finance. The first part of finance is kind of management accounting, so making sure that you know, you're supporting the business. You know, finance is not an oversight in a lot of these multinational companies. It's really helping to increase the performance and provide more insight to business decisions. So my first 12-month rotation was in planning and performance reporting, and that's really analyzing the results of the business and how the business has performed so far, and then communicating that to various important stakeholders, such as our CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, and also to you know, other stakeholders across the business, those that are in charge of making business decisions. That's been my 12-month rotation. So within that, I've had the opportunity to practice a variety of skills. Yes, of course, the myth, not really a myth, but the assumption that there's a lot of Excel within finance. Yes, that does hold true, but there's a lot of other things to take on within finance, such as presenting. I've had the opportunity to present quarterly results to various senior stakeholders, and I've also had the opportunity to partake in project management as well. One specific example of that, I've been involved in making a site for finance colleagues and help coordinate that, where people can, other colleagues can access skills relating to people skills, to using various technologies. So it's, again, through this rotation, I've had the opportunity to really widen my skill set as part of being of studying towards accountancy qualification as well. So I've just recently moved into a team regulatory reporting. So you've got the supporting the business, but another part of finance, you have complying with financial statements and the complex accounting regulations that there are for a multinational company. That takes up a lot of time and resource, and there's a lot of opportunity to improve certain processes to make the process of producing those statements a lot more faster, a lot more quicker. Within finance, we use a lot of technologies such as Excel, Power BI, Power Query, which is an add-on to Excel, and really the whole Microsoft suite of technologies we get to use in the finance graduate scheme. So you really get a wide exposure into the technicals of Microsoft, really, and other technologies.
Amazing. Thanks, Luke. There's so many things that you've said there where you just think there's so much that you've learned in that first year. And I really don't think we should underestimate as well the importance of those kind of softer skills that you've mentioned. You know, the ability to present and work with other people and project management and all these things that you've had exposure to in the last year. You know, they're really important to a business. You know, your technical knowledge of your actual role is obviously incredibly important, but all those soft skills are just as important and will be just as valuable as you move through your career as well. And we've also, all three of you have had very different experiences in terms of what you've been doing and the types of things that you've been working on. Which kind of leads me on to life outside of the graduate scheme per se, in terms of what life is like at Zurich, you know, on a day-to-day basis, and from a more social side. Now, Luke, you live in Wales, but you commute every day, well, a few days a week to Swindon. So your life's a little bit different. But can you tell us a bit more about the social side of working at Zurich, or any other groups or things that you've been involved in?
Absolutely. I think there's as part of the apprenticeship, interns and graduates, we're all closely coordinated, even though we're based in different offices. For example, we have a graduate committee where we kind of coordinate various events, various social events through either online or when we meet together in person. It's also worth bearing in mind that Zurich has a graduate development program. So even though the other graduates are based in different offices throughout the country, there are opportunities where we do get to meet each other face to face.
Oh, nice.
And we typically kind of go through a session in the day where we're looking at more softer skills. So as you previously mentioned, the graduate development program is a very big on pushing softer skills and improving that for graduates. But as we have those opportunities, it kind of brings all of the graduates together on a frequent enough basis, even if you are based in other offices. So, you know, there's always opportunity to, you know, socialize and network with your fellow cohort, which is, you know, so important as you're starting off your career in such a big company. Is good that you have a solid network as a starting point, and then you can branch out and form your own networks as you're comfortable enough in your starting.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks, Luke. I think it is a really important point. You know, starting a new career can be really daunting, let alone if you've, you know, relocated. And, you know, at Zurich, there is a big cohort of graduates coming in. So you're going to have people in the same shoes as you, which is really nice to hear as well. Zaira, you're based in London, aren't you? So a slightly different location to Swindon. But is it the same thing for you? Have you got I mean, Chrysanthe's also in London. So, you know, do you hang out? Do you guys know each other? Do you have a kind of group that you all kind of hang out with?
Yeah. So I think London is a really good hub for grads, especially because just naturally a lot of us are here. I think we even have, no offense, Luke, I feel like it might be rude, but we have a London grads group chat as well, you know, where we can just chat, you know, just get casual, you know, not everything has to be fully professional all the time, you know, have a laugh and all of that. We also like we have a lunch in a specific part as well, you know, around a certain time you're bound to see grads sit and have lunch, you know. Usually it's around the summertime on the terrace, you know, because it's really nice there and stuff. But outside of grads as well, I think we do a lot of events and things in London, namely for example, we're really keen on charity, and we do a lot of like soup kitchen things where you can volunteer. I know my team, on behalf of ZCT, so the Zurich Charity Trust, we're going on a walk from Woolwich to London Bridge actually to generate £500 towards food supplies and everything for a soup kitchen. So that's also nice to connect to not only grads but a wider network of other colleagues, you know, ranging from senior to, you know, your lowest grades and stuff like that. So that's quite nice.
Lovely. Thanks, Zaira. It's been really lovely hearing about all of your experiences and, you know, what you do day to day. But now I'm going to hand back to Carla to find out about how you get that job with Zurich.
Perfect. Thanks very much, sir. Thanks to everybody. So yes, I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that you guys have submitted questions for me to ask Zurich today. So we've kind of cherry-picked 2 questions that I'm going to speak to Laura about now. So Laura, the first question is from David at Imperial College London. So thanks, David. David he's studied physics at university, and he would like to know what specific skills can someone with a background in physics take into the insurance industry?
So I would say it's a really good question from David. So there are many sort of transferable skills that people can take from either sort of their studies or personal life into the insurance industry. So someone like David, if he's studied physics or has a background in physics, something like the sustainable energy program would be really beneficial for him. He would be really suited to something like that. So that's where you sort of learn about sort of risk management within energy, marine and construction. So David would probably have a really good background in kind of what that truly means. And I think his skill set would likely sort of transfer nicely into something like that. But like I said, it doesn't necessarily matter what you studied. I think there really is something for everybody at Zurich, and where we do take more of a strengths-based approach, which we will touch on in a moment. It's sort of trying to understand, sort of through the assessment and selection process, it's trying to understand what your strengths are, what your skill set is, and how that does sort of directly transfer into a corporate environment. You know, we've had Zyra, Luke, and Chrysanthi on the call today. They've all touched on those softer skills. So presenting, you know, none of us love presenting, but you kind of just grow with time. You know, your confidence grows over time. And even the kind of the time management, the communication skills, all of those things that kind of you should learn from sort of a school age to college to university, all of that transfers perfectly into the workplace. But it's really trying to understand kind of where your strengths and your skills fit sort of into one of our programs.
Okay, absolutely. Thanks, Laura. I was going to say that Jin helps with the presentation skills, but I don't think that's appropriate for a live webinar. So I've already said it. So next question, so final question is from Rayhan at the University of Leeds. So thanks, Rayhan, for submitting your question as well. So Rayhan actually graduated in 2020. So is he still able to apply for your graduate positions, or do you have to be a more recent graduate?
Yes, great question, Rayhan. But unfortunately, someone like Rayhan who graduated in 2020 would not be eligible. So our graduate programs are designed for those who are sort of due to graduate within the next year. Or have graduated within the last 3 years. And as I mentioned earlier, the internship to design for those for in the penultimate year of study. So unfortunately, 2020 is just outside of that. So yeah, unfortunately not. There might be something that's a bit more kind of suited in our more general roles outside of early careers for Rayhan. So, you know, he can take a look at that. But yeah, graduate, unfortunately not.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Laura. Rayhan, there'll be lots of opportunities on Gradcracker for you to apply for. So go and have a look at this webinar and have a snoop around. So Laura, just sticking with you, if I can, and just talk about the application process. So we mentioned you've got lots and lots of opportunities currently open on Gradcracker, and lots of different backgrounds that you'll accept in lots of different locations. So when a student clicks on the apply link on Gradcracker to apply, take us through the next steps.
Sure. So there are a few steps to our process. We have tried to keep it simple, but naturally there is an assessment and selection process. So first of all, you'll go through to the initial application stage. So all of our opportunities are on the Gradcracker Hub. So please go and check those out after the call today or over the next few days. We are open until the 20th of October. So that initial application is checking those initial eligibility questions. So your right to work, the qualifications, those kind of things, just to kind of check that you actually qualify for one of the programs. Should you be successful at that initial application stage, you will be sent the link to a strengths-based online assessment. So I know I've touched on this a few times, and we will come onto it in a bit more detail in a moment, but we don't actually review CVs throughout the process. It's purely a strengths-based approach. So your assessment is designed to assess your strengths, your fit for the company, your potential, rather than the experience that you may or may not have had. So it's a little bit more fair to our candidates. And there is sort of a threshold to meet there. If you do meet that threshold, you move on to the next stage, which is the video assessment. So it is worth noting at that initial assessment stage, you will receive an output report, which does highlight kind of your strengths and your potential areas of improvement as well. So everybody gets that regardless of whether they reach the next stage or not. The next stage is that video assessment stage. So again, that is strengths-based. You will be presented with a number of scenarios. It has been built and designed for Zurich. So it's not just a generic online assessment that we've picked. It's been carefully sort of created for Zurich, and we're sort of assessing those values that are really important to us. So you are asked to kind of answer a series of questions, and you are speaking to a camera. So one of my biggest tips is to get comfortable to speak into a camera, because it doesn't necessarily feel that natural. So practice. I'm sure whether it's Zurich or other companies, you'll go through similar. So get comfortable with that. And then if you are successful at that stage, that is then the final interview. So some of those will be face-to-face, some of those will be virtually, depending on kind of what works best for the business area. But again, that it all flows through, and it will be strengths-based. So the questions that are asked to you are designed to kind of really assess your strengths. So as an example, rather than the traditional competency-based questions, where we're asking for examples of a time when, you will be asked, how would you deal with a situation if it was presented to you? So it's that kind of, how would you react, rather than how have you acted? And again, that's purely to allow for a fair and consistent approach. We believe that everybody deserves an opportunity to come and work for us, regardless of, you know, their experience, what they studied, whether they've got sort of relatable experience or not. So yeah, and then, you know, it's a fairly long process in terms of, you know, we're open for 6 weeks for application. So if you apply over the next couple of days, please do bear with us. We will keep you up to date throughout the process. But yes, it is naturally quite a long process, because we don't really sort of move people through to sort of final interview until everybody has applied and they've done their assessments and things like that. A CV is required, purely because our system requires one for you to apply. But like I said, your interviewers and assessors do not look at your CV. It is a blind CV approach, and we will touch on that again in a moment. Again, with a cover letter, you are more than welcome to upload it. We will not, we won't look at it. In the nicest possible way, we deal with thousands of applicants, and we just can't review everybody's. Obviously, everybody is applying for the same reason. They want the role, and everybody has the same sort of passion. But, you know, you are more than welcome to upload a cover letter, because it will be then linked to kind of your profile for future reference. But we won't necessarily look at that. But that is a Zurich stance, so you may need them for other companies. And one important thing to call out is that you can only apply for one role. Again, just for fairness and consistency. So please look at those roles and responsibilities as part of the program and the location before you apply, because you can only apply for one.
Perfect, thanks, Laura. And just to go back a little bit, so you mentioned about the strength-based tests, and you get a report at the end of those to say where you've done well and maybe other areas of improvement. So if there are any areas that people can improve on, would you expect to see improvements throughout the application process? Or is that for students to take away if they're not being successful?
It's purely for the students to take away, just to kind of summarize how the assessment went and what it kind of picked out in terms of those key themes. But we don't look at those. It's generated based on the assessment performance. We don't look at those at all.
That's quite good feedback then, isn't it, for students to kind of evaluate themselves if it is, you know, work on communication skills and everything else. It is a report that's there for them. Thanks, Laura. And you have mentioned a few times now about not accepting CVs as the business, or not reviewing the CVs at Zurich. So tell us a little bit more about why Zurich has come to that decision as a business.
Yeah, for sure. It's a decision that we made a couple of years ago, and it's something that we are really, really proud of with this approach. Now, some other companies are starting to move towards this. So it might start to become more common, but it is a fairly new stance, I would say. It's something that we do for all of our early careers, so grads, interns, apprentices. We don't look at the CVs at all. And like I said, that is because it allows us to be more fair in our approach. It removes the potential for unconscious bias. So it doesn't matter kind of what university you went to, whereabouts you studied, where you live, what, you know, anything like that, that may form an unconscious bias is completely removed. So we can't see anything like that. So at interview stage, the interviewers and assessors are given the name of the candidate, and that is it. And obviously they know that they've passed those initial assessments and things like that. But other than that, it just means that we're essentially giving everybody a fair opportunity to get into the insurance industry. You know, I guess historically it might be, you know, I got into insurance because my mum works there or my dad knows somebody, and we want to completely move away from anything like that. We believe that actually insurance industry is a great place to work, and everybody deserves a fair opportunity to kind of get their foot in the door. So that's why we made the decision, and it's really, really working well for us. It makes those interviews a bit more conversational. Candidates are more than welcome to draw in from their experience from their CV. That's absolutely fine, because naturally that will happen, but it just is that the interviewers have not seen the CV at that stage.
Absolutely love it. Thank you very much, Laura. And another question that we got asked is, and we've spoken about this, Laura, in depth before the webinar, is about your stance on student visas and students who require a visa. So what is the Zurich stance on that, please?
So as it stands, due to recent government announcement, we are unable to accept visa candidates onto any of our programs. So candidates must have the full right to live and work in the UK. So even if you're on a student visa or similar, we cannot unfortunately accept you onto any of our programs. That is one of those initial eligibility questions. So if you don't have that, you will be sort of rejected at that stage, unfortunately. It might be something that we review in the future, but as it stands, that is our current stance.
Fantastic, thanks, Laura. And now to bring it back to the grads who are on the call. So without giving too much away and embarrassing them all too much, bless them, can you give some snippets, hints and tips, advice about why you think these guys were so successful?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, these guys, I'm always proud of our grads. We've got some super graduates in the business, and in particular, these three on the call today, they are here for a reason. I love kind of getting their voices out there. But so for me, I think it's about being your authentic self throughout the process. So be honest, be authentic, and be yourself from that application stage right through to final interview stage. And then when you are successful, bring that through into the business. So our current grads on the call today, you've heard that they've all had very different backgrounds, different experiences. They've all gone into different areas of the business. They all bring something different. They're very unique and individual. And I think for us, that is what we're looking for. So as a company, it's very important that our employees can be their true, authentic self at work. You know, everybody is their own individual person, and I think that should carry through. And I think for me is be passionate, which all of these guys are very passionate, and also be curious. So we're really looking for people to, you know, ask questions at the interview, be curious, ask a bit more about who we are, what we do. So yeah, I think for me it's about authenticity for sure, and passion. And lastly, I have to leave this small snippet, because I have to, if I do any webinar, is that please do your research on us, who we are, what we do. I've given you a bit of a snippet today, but if you are looking to apply, it's all there on our website. But at that final interview stage, we really need to know that you want to come and work for Zurich. We want to really see that. So please do your research on the company. That is my biggest tip.
We'll snippet that bit out, Laura. Do your research. And then, thanks very much, Laura. And just from kind of the grads' mouths now about how they prepped for the application process. So Zaira, I'm going to come to you initially. So the initial application that you did online, give us some hints and tips about what you did, so then students can kind of copy.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess it was quite simple and quite easy. So I think especially Gradcracker really does summarize the job description for you then and there before even like going on to Zurich's page. It summarizes qualifications you need, the skills, the key skills, and all the necessary requirements, honestly. So before that, basically what I did with that information was I identified if I was compatible for the job. Essentially, seeing if my key skills match the ones on the website, seeing if my work, my academics, my extracurricular, all of that suits essentially. And one thing I did realize quite quickly was Zurich, in particular, the business graduate program, actually is very flexible with their degrees. So I'm pretty sure, if it hasn't changed, Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, it is any degree that's welcome as long as it's a 2-1. So I was like, yeah, ticked everything, and you know, now any degree, okay, yeah, I can pick it now. This is for me, basically. And also a very important thing I would highly suggest is look at the company's values. So look at Zurich's values, see if it's compatible for you. And a lot of questions, without giving away too much, is about, like Laura said, knowing what Zurich stands for, essentially. And you can't go in there a bit blindsided. So that's a really big thing to kind of know of, because not only for the interviewer, but for yourself, you know, you want to work for a company you're also passionate for and what they stand for as well. But I think because they don't look at CVs anymore, I would still say if you are going to submit a CV, make sure those key skills are within your CV as well, to back it up along with your cover letter.
Perfect. Lovely. Thank you very much. Cassandra, on to you now. If you can talk about the assessment centre and how you think that, or why you think you were successful.
Okay, yeah. So for the assessment center, to prepare, I spent a few days, like in advance, familiarizing myself with Zurich's business, mission, and values, which is something that Laura mentioned as well. So I also reviewed the job description, so I knew what they were looking for in a candidate. And then I think what helped me the most was being myself throughout the process. So the interview felt more like a conversation where I shared examples from my previous experiences, linking them to the required competencies. And then, so I think as hints, I would just say to, be polite, friendly, and mostly yourself. So your sessions are just looking for someone who will fit well into their team and they want to get to know you. And then also just enjoy the day, because treat the assessment center as a learning experience and make the most of the opportunity.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Cassandra. And thank you everybody for joining us on this webinar today. And don't forget, like Laura and I've mentioned throughout the webinar, that their opportunities are currently live on the Gradcracker hub. So something for everybody is definitely on there. And don't forget, like Laura mentioned, the closing date is the 20th of October, which will be here before we know it. So don't rush, but make sure you get your applications in, and make sure, like Laura mentioned, about doing your research, you know, saying to Laura as part of the interview process that you've watched this webinar shows that you've done the research, shows that you've taken time out to really sit and think and concentrate on why you want to apply to Zurich. So don't forget, this webinar will be on the Zurich hub over the next few days, and we'll also break it down into bite-sized chunks as well, which will offer all sorts of hints and tips and advice about how you, our STEM students, can be successul. So Laura, your wishes come true. I hope you enjoyed the webinar.
I did. I enjoyed being live. It was very exciting. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. And don't forget, me and Jess will be back on Monday, 16th of September, 2 p.m. with Aston Martin. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you then. But good luck when you apply to Zurich, and we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.